Hi Amity Knitters, it's Holly. This is my first video after the holidays, so Happy New Year, even though it is the end of January. Just wanted to say Happy New Year to everybody, and I hope that everybody is well and warm. In Western Massachusetts, we had about 16 inches of snow, 17 at our house, and we're expecting a little bit more snow this weekend, more knitting time, selfishly, so happy about that. But it is bitterly cold, -2 this morning when I went to work, so I'll be happy when this cold snap ends. I don't mind the snow as much, but definitely the cold. So this afternoon, or midday, I had lunch with Beth Zych. She is my interview today, so I'm really excited to introduce everybody to Beth. If you don't already know her, Beth is a former local yarn store owner in Eastern Massachusetts, has been a knitter most of her life, and has been involved in fiber education for the last several years. And that's actually how we got to know each other. So you're going to learn a little bit more about that in the video to come. But while I did my intro today, I thought I would share just a little bit. So first of all, my sweater I am wearing, I wanted to bring out the pattern and show you. Normally I have a Jaws shirt on. I have a new Jaws shirt that I got for Christmas. So Amity Island, I wanted to show everybody that. But this is my yarn pattern book, my binder. So I broke this out to show you, and I popped a pen in the pattern. If anybody does not recognize the sea glass pattern from Wool and Pine, this is the sweater here that I'm wearing. Sea glass is done with color work and stranded knitting, and it's changing color obviously every other stitch. You're rotating with your two yarns, but it's changing every row. And the method behind the sea glass is that you use a method because you're going to have at least a bazillion ends to weave in, is that you use either the magic knot, where you're knotting, both of your two yarns are coming together, you cross them, and then you're knotting each one, and you pull them tightly so that they snag tight. That is the method that I chose to use. The other method that they recommend, so that you're not weaving in all that muck, is that you leave your ends longer, and once you finish, that you bring them together and you almost do a French braid, where you're braiding, but with a French braid, you're constantly bringing in new yarn, and that's what you would do. You start, and then as you work your way down, you're braiding in more until you get to the end. And then you just have this braid on the inside of your sweater. And to me, that just seemed like it would be a little bulky, and I had not used the magic knot before, so I was pretty pleased to try that. And you'll notice that mine has elbow length sleeves, and the version here that they show in the pattern this is long sleeve. And I will tell you that I grew exhausted with the process. I loved making the sweater, but once I got to the sleeves, my passion was gone, and I was either at the point of putting it away for a while or finishing it. My solution was elbow length sleeves. So normally in the winter, the elbow length sleeve is fine, but when it's -2, you put a thermal under it and you wear that to work. So that is what I did today. So it was definitely cold enough for me to wear the heavy sweater. It's knit with DK, and it's really meant that you use scraps and just ends and things that you have. So I was able to do that and cleaned out a lot of stash, which was really fun, and felt really great about doing it. And now I love it. When I wear it, people recognize it. So I'm like, I can say I made the sea glass. I would like to do it again, but I think I would modify how I did it. So Beth Zych and I had lunch today in Western Mass at a restaurant called Fitzwilly's. It's a little loud. I'm going to work on the video to adjust some of the sound, but it was the only time that we could meet today and actually have a place that was not outside. We just could not find a great spot to meet. So we decided to do that. So I hope you enjoy the video, and I will see you at the end. Thanks again. Hi, Amity Knitters. It's Holly. I am here at a local restaurant with my friend Beth Zych. I can't wait to introduce her to you. Sorry about the background noise, but we are eating at Fitzwillies in Northampton in Western Massachusetts, and we've just had a delicious lunch. We are not going to make you watch us chew. We both decided that being off camera during dinner was best. So I'm going to introduce you to my friend Beth, and we're going to chat a little bit about her new business and what she's up to and how she got to be here. So Beth, let's start at the beginning and tell me when you learned to knit.
Hi Holly, thank you so much. So my Nana taught me to knit when I was 8 years old. I had been longing to learn for many years prior to that, but she maintained that I would not have the patience or the motor skills until I was 8. That was the magic number. So for years I got to sit at her knee and help her wind yarn and play with her leftovers and things like that. And when I got to be 8 years old, if I helped her wind her yarn into balls that she could knit from, I would then get a knitting lesson for my efforts. So that's how I learned how to knit.
So Beth is actually knitting as she's sitting here, and I wanted to ask her about the gorgeous, gorgeous cable sweater that she's wearing, and to have her introduce us to the pattern that she's knitting. I'm going to hold this up here. This is one of Beth's patterns. She's under the name of Elizabeth Decker, and she's going to tell you a little bit about this pattern and what she's working on before we delve into her knitting background. She is a former local yarn store owner and an educational director at Webb's, and that is what her business is now. So I'm going to hand this back over to Beth and have her start with her gorgeous sweater and then get into this beautiful cowl, which I will post another photo of, because when I saw Beth at the Fiber Festival of New England, she was wearing this beautiful cowl too. So let me hand it back over to her.
Okay, let me see if I can remember all this, Holly. We started with the sweater that I'm wearing. The sweater that I'm wearing is called Celtic Dreams. It is by a designer called Beth Brown Rensel, and I hope I pronounced that correctly, Beth. But it is a beautiful top-down airing pattern that Beth designed many, many years ago. It's, I think, probably still one of her most popular ones. But I just love everything about it. The only problem with it is it's not green. Other than that, it was a joy to knit, and knitted out of some beautiful Rowan tweed that I had. And the sweater is probably 18 years old now. It's I've had it for 18 years, and I wear it every winter, and I love it. It goes with almost everything because it goes really well with green. And I am currently knitting another version of my Garter Love cowl, which is green, as you can see. Both the one in the photograph and the one in my hands are knit with Freya Fine Hand Paints worsted weight yarn. One skein makes the cowl. And it's beautiful yarn to knit with, and it's a nice, easy, little mindless pattern that you can knit on while you're chit-chatting with somebody.
Okay, so here we are again, and she was talking about Freya yarns. Freya is dyed in Western Massachusetts in North Adams, which is in the northern Berkshires, very close to the border of Western Vermont, and I'm hoping to get a chance to get up there and see more. I do have some Freya yarn that I have yet to create with and make something for myself. Selfishly, I know I'll be keeping whatever I decide to do, but that's really exciting. Another local person who's doing great stuff, and we're able to promote their work. So we're going to move on a little bit now and talk to Beth about her world as a professional knitter and in her work as a local yarn store owner and what brought her to Western Mass, and then we'll talk a little bit about how she and I actually met the first time.
I left corporate world Boston in 2002 and went to work part-time in a local yarn store in Milton, Massachusetts called Snow Goose Yarns. If any of you remember that store or remember Jan, the owner, she was a treasure. She truly was. I worked for her for 3 years, and another local yarn store on the South Shore of Boston became available for sale, and my mom and I talked it over, and we decided to purchase it, and we became business partners, my mom and I. She was my not so silent partner, and we ran Wool Basket Yarns together for almost 10 years. A wonderful little community in Duxbury, Massachusetts. It was just one of the joys of life, living there and helping to build that community in that yarn store in Duxbury was just such a wonderful experience. And I would like, if it's okay with Holly, to give a little shout out to one of my dear friends from the Wool Basket who has just opened a local yarn store in Norwell, Massachusetts called Pearl and Anchor. If you're in that area, stop by and see Kimberly and her team. They are amazing and the store is beautiful.
Well, I love that plug that she just gave for Pearl and Anchor. It's a store I've never been to, and I think she's just given me another store to add to my list to visit. So I'm very excited about that. So I'm going to hand it back to Beth again so she can talk about her official move to Western Massachusetts and her initial connection with Webb's, America's Yarn Store, which I've shared with all of you is one of my local yarn stores. I know that folks feel really jealous that I get to say that I have two yarn stores in the same town. And so I have Webb's and I have Northampton Wools, both of whom are great places to shop and that I get to frequent. And I'm really fortunate that way. So let me hand it back to Beth.
When my mom and I were in the process of making the decision to close Wool Basket Yarns, which was one of the hardest decisions I've ever made in my life, but it was time. I was very fortunate through a mutual friend to be put in touch with Kathy and Steve Elkins, who were the owners of Webb's, America's Yarn Store at the time. They interviewed me and offered me a job in their store as an assistant manager. So I packed up my life and packed up my dog Henry, and we got in the car and we moved clear across the state to Western Massachusetts, and I started working as an assistant store manager at Webb's. I held that position for 6 years. I think it was 6 years, and just loved it. I had an amazing time. I got to learn so much from Kathy and Steve. I loved the relationships that I made with the customers. I loved teaching classes at Webb's. I taught a lot of classes at Webb's too, and just the whole experience of being there and working there during that time was just really amazing. And when the opportunity arose for me to move into the education manager role in July of 2020, I jumped at it, said absolutely, and stopped teaching classes and started organizing and holding classes for students at Webb's.
So now we're back at the time that Beth and I actually met. And I was in the Expert Knitter program at Webb's. And I like to say that I had taken the slow road to that program because I do work full-time during the day. So it took me several years to get through the Expert Knitter program. And it happened to be in 2020 when I was starting my capstone. And the capstone project is a project that with the Expert Knitter Certification Program, you make a plan, it's presented to the educational director and others at Webb's, and you do it in writing. It's a process, and you are connected with a mentor, and I was connected with an amazing mentor, Erin, who really, I'd taken several classes with her teaching, but she was really the person for me when it came to my capstone. So I feel really lucky that that connection happened, and that I was able to make the sweater that I wanted to make. What was interesting is that the educational director had left right at the time of graduation, which normally would have happened in May. Given the state of the world in May of 2020, it did not actually happen until much later that summer. But Beth had become the educational director at that time. So I was able to work with her, and we worked together with the other graduates of the program for the capstone project and then the presentation. It was the first graduation that was outside. We were all fully masked, and it was an amazing opportunity. None of us thought we were going to have because of what was going on in the world and being in the pandemic, that most of us thought we were not going to have the same opportunity that some of the other graduates had had. So if you're not familiar with the Expert Knitter program, it is online at the Webb's website. But what I felt about the program, and I think Beth will probably speak to that a little bit more, as a new knitter, I had only been a knitter for about 10 years or so, and it was really doing the basics. Like, I was not expanding my knowledge, but I wanted to take a class or two. And it was encouraging that I was meeting people in each of the classes, but hearing them say, oh, I'm in the Expert Knitter program. And finally, I had the courage to ask somebody exactly what that meant. And they expressed to me that I could join the program and I could take as many classes as I wanted, but there was a structure to it. And I was going to learn so many things. Do I consider myself an expert knitter? No, I don't. But do I consider myself a person who's taken a lot of classes and has learned a lot of techniques and has been able to help other people? Yes, I do consider myself that. And I feel like as a knitter, I always have something to learn, and I think most knitters feel that way, that whether we learned on our grandmother's knee or we learned when you were in your late 30s like me, and you learned to knit and just sort of figured things out, and that's kind of where I'm at. But the Expert Knitter program kept me focused and really on track. So I'm going to hand it back over to Beth and let her talk a little bit more about what it was like to be an educator in that program and what she's up to now. We're going to come back to in a moment. So here's Beth again.
I have to say that being the education manager and being the caretaker of the Expert Knitter program at Webb's for nearly 5 years was one of the best parts of my career. I loved every minute of it. I loved working with students like Holly, evaluating their work, seeing their progress, seeing how they move through the program, seeing their accomplishments and creations and creativity was just such a great joy, and I really did love every minute of it. Planning that graduation in 2020 was one of the first things I did in that job, and it turned out to be a really, really lovely day. It almost rained on us. We had rain gear and umbrellas at the ready, but we were outside. Everybody was able to show off their beautiful work, even though it was August and probably a little warm and humid for sweaters. But we had a wonderful graduation and a wonderful celebration of their beautiful work and their talent and their skill and the knowledge that they acquired through participating in this program was just, and continued to be for the entirety of the time I was there, just an amazing thing to see. The students amazed me every day, and it was really a lot of fun and really cemented my desire to build a community and continue to inspire knitters to create beautiful things and learn new skills in order to just further their own knitting journey.
Okay, so first I want to say thank you so much for sticking with us. We are in a booth, as you can probably tell, and the folks here at Fitzwillies are being very great. They're handing me my doggy bag, which is behind me. Like, they're going behind the camera. Everybody's being very, very sweet to us here so we can do our video. But we're going to fast forward now to spring of 2025. So Beth is making a plan to start her own business. You may remember in my video from the Fiber Festival of New England, I was so excited because I hadn't seen Beth in a while, and we had a chance to catch up, and she gave me this beautiful project bag, which I have kept, and I had to go digging for her pattern because I had already put it into my pattern box and said, I'm going to be working on this. But this is her business here. I'm hoping that you can see this here. So community education and YarnSmarts is the name of her business. And I'm just going to talk about how she does education for crafters and fiber people, those of us that always want something on our needles, whether it's crochet or knitting needles, and we like to learn. That is one of my things, that I always like to learn more skills and get better at what I'm doing. So I'm going to hand this over to Beth and let her catch us up here from spring of 2025 to January of 2025.
So what I took with me from Webb's was a real passion for creating educational opportunities for crafters. Really great education, high quality education with industry leading teachers that I spent 5 years at Webb's getting to know and work with, and I've been so fortunate. It's just been so much fun. I decided to start YarnSmarts to see if we couldn't build that education opportunity in another different sort of way. It's a small community at the moment, but YarnSmarts is growing. Our focus obviously is on community and education. We have all kinds of events and classes that we offer on the website, which is yarnsmarts.com. We have a retreat coming up in February. Registration is open now. We have some really fantastic teachers joining us for that. These retreats will happen at least twice a year if I can make them work. We also do something called Craft and Chats, which is just really hang out with your best friends, knit, chat, and talk to somebody from the industry, whether it's a local yarn store owner or an industry teacher, a yarn company rep, somebody like that. We just have lots of fun just chatting and getting to know folks outside of a classroom or outside of the professional setting, if you will. And it's really just a lovely way to spend an hour on a Thursday afternoon. Classes we offer. I think I just put 10 classes up on the website yesterday. We're offering everything from more advanced classes to, I've got a crochet basics and a knitting basics class. If you've never picked up a crochet hook or needles before, we can help you get started. That's kind of what we're doing. Those are my days. I've learned how to run a website. I've learned how to run QuickBooks. I've learned, I haven't learned how to edit videos yet. I'm going to leave that to Holly for the moment.
So there's so much going on with her business. I hope everybody gets a chance to visit her website, and I will share it in the show notes and everything afterwards too. I will also share her Ravelry link and Instagram as well, because I just feel like there's so much there for all of us to learn and to gain from Beth and what she's doing. And what I love about YarnSmarts is getting people from all over the country that can take a class together online. That, I love going to my local yarn store and taking a class and learning something new, but you can learn from so many people and making new yarn friends, as you know, and I say this in every episode, that amity, as you know, means friendship. My favorite line from the movie Jaws, that this is another fiber friend, and that's is where we get those fiber friends, is taking classes just like this. So I hope that you will follow Beth and get a chance to get onto her website. So I'm going to come back a little bit later this evening once I get home and close out the video, and I'm going to add in some photos and some other things to connect me more with Beth, but also to connect you with Beth as well. So thanks to everybody for sticking with Amity Knitters. I'm glad you found my YouTube channel, and we will talk again later. Hi again. I hope everybody appreciated the introduction to Beth and that you look for her. I will put in my show notes her Ravelry page, and as I said, her Instagram, etc. But I wanted to show you this. I'm going to hold this up in case anybody wants to scan, if you can, on your TV screen or your computer screen. This is for YarnSmarts, her business. And it's really exciting that she's doing this work. She has so many connections in the educational field that I just think it's so great that she's doing it. All of her classes are virtual. So no matter where you are in the world, you can participate in the classes and the retreats that Beth puts together. And so she has a retreat next month. I know registration is ongoing right now. And her goal is to actually have 2 of these virtual retreats a year. So it's very exciting. Now, her pattern, this one is under the name of Elizabeth Decker. I did say that earlier, but this is the pattern, and I am going to drop the photo in of her wearing this because when I saw her at the Fiber Festival of New England, she was wearing it. So my apologies for repeating if I did any of that. And my appreciation to all of you for finding Amity Knitters. I'm so happy that you found my channel. Please subscribe and like and all of the wonderful things that you can do with YouTube, and share it with your fiber friends. I appreciate it. I know Beth will appreciate it if you get to her web page and check it out and see what's there. Follow her on Instagram. It's really exciting to see this type of business. I really love this. I think that the pandemic has given us some opportunity to do much more virtually, and this I think is one of the most amazing things. So I hope you'll check everything out. Thank you again for finding Amity Knitters, and I will talk to you all soon. Have a great day, and watch for a video next week about my capstone and the work that Beth was able to help me celebrate at the end. So thanks again, everybody. Bye-bye.